Alright everybody, hello, good evening or afternoon or morning or whatever time you're watching this video. So we can see on the desk we got something new. I know what you're thinking. What about the P47? Well, I'm not going to build this right away. We're going to, easy does it, we're going to do the P47 before we do this. But I want to unbox this because I was surprised to find out, well, one thing in particular. Oh, how do I want to do this? Let's see how this looks on the camera. Hang on a second, let me take a look. Yeah, this is good. Okay, so unboxing the Guillow P47. I'm sorry, the Guillow Corsair. Right, so kit includes two full-size plan sheets. We'll go over those in a minute. The step-by-step order of assembly and instructions. Right, fuselage first, main wing section, tail planes. That's the bulk of the assembly. This kit has provisions for a couple of different features, including droppable bomb, centerline bomb dropping majigger. It also features functioning retractable landing gear. So I don't know about the bomb thing, but what I want to do with this one is either pose the flaps fully extended or make them posable. Make the landing gear retractable, and possibly also include the canopy sliding if I can. I should be able to get those three features. Pardon the noise interruption. We got a commercial flight going over. This is the decal sheet that's included. I might use this. I might just go with this. I'm trying to cut back on some of the expenditures that I'm making here. It already costs quite a bit. I was just having this discussion with somebody else. The kit prices are going up, which is one thing. But everything that I do to finish these, all of the materials that I use, the added sheets of balsa, price is going up. Adhesives, the prices are going up. The finishing filler and compounds that I use, the paints, obviously paints are going up through the roof. So prices are going up, which is something that they do. And here lately, the increases have been a little bit drastic. So we're going to try and reduce some of the Haywood Plains overhead by just checking back on, I probably won't do aftermarket decals for this, but I might. Again, like always with my projects, it kind of depends on how it goes. But the one thing I wanted to drag your attention to with this thing, and you can see that's a pretty nice canopy. All things considered, I mean, that looks pretty clean and in a decent shape. The cardstock with some of the details here. Interiors of the landing gear main doors. What do we got here? The two wheel wells for the main gear. We've got the cockpit arrangement. Now, you know how I do cockpits for my aircraft, but I do use this for the reference and for templates, for cutting up, my cardstock and my birch ply for that. We've got cowling flaps, and we've got some other sorted parts. This is the top of the main fuselage, right in front of where the canopy cutout is, where the cockpit cutout is. So this is the part extending forward towards the nose of the airplane. May or may not use that, or I don't know at this point. We'll just check and see what we do with that. Landing gear tail wheel doors, and here's some more of the landing gear main door. This is the front portion of the landing gear door. This is one that actually attaches to the landing gear posts. Landing gear, you know what I'm trying to say. Anyway, some of the access doors here, which I'll probably just cut out of birch ply, since that is sandable, and or use other cardstock that's a little finer than this. I don't care for the color that they use on this. Is not really a good interior green, so I don't typically use these, but they make for good templates and sort of a reference for what to do in as far as how I'm, how to make the parts look. But here's the thing that I wanted to focus on for the moment is this dummy engine. And you can see the cowling includes this, which I just is not. I never use these, so this can be cut out, sliced right along this line here, all the way around, and then I can dress this one up. The dummy motor. This will save me a lot of time and money. I won't have to fabricate one. This one looks fairly good, and once I add ignition wiring harness and some other detail parts to this, I can make that look with paint. I can make that look okay, pretty good maybe. So I was wondering, in my head, I saw this and I thought, well, why didn't they include that for the P47? I would have made that job a lot easier, but then I would have had much less to do, so I guess that's why. Anyway, you can see some of the other components here, and I'm not 100% sure of everything I'm looking at. I don't know what this is. These I recognize, the wing root oil coolers. I think that's what those are, is the oil cooler. We've got the propeller hub, rear section, and probably the nose section here and here. Those go together to make the prop hub itself. Interesting that that's in two pieces and not blown the other way, like for instance, blown this way, so that they wouldn't have to be glued together. The more I look at that, the more I'm thinking I'm going to be using wood dowel and shaping it myself to make those, rather than trying to glue these together seamlessly. But we'll look at it. Maybe I can do it. I like to save time, and I like to save on materials. And if they're included here, I try to use them. You all know that from other videos and the other builds that I've done that I do two things. One, I try to use as much of the kit supplied material as I can and follow the basic engineering design of the kits themselves as sort of an homage to the kit designer, or to the company that provides these. So for Guillow, for them to put out this material, I try to use it. And the other thing I try to do is be as faithful as I can to the original aircraft. And so with Chance Vought, the Vought Corporation, and Corsair, I want to try to make my model a good representation, a scale version of their full-size aircraft to the extent that I can. So I'm trying to make a crossroads there between those two things. So I'll use as much of the kit component as I can. I'll enhance it a little bit. I'll do sort of my own thing too, but then at the end of the day, or the end of the assessment, I am trying to be faithful to both entities, if that makes sense. So anyway, what do we have here? We have the tail wheels assembly, the two bombs that mount under the wing, right next to the fuselage. And I don't know that I'll be putting these up onto the airplane. I like the clean look, especially with the Corsair. I know that the airplane was essentially used as a ground attack and infantry support, close air support throughout most of its career in World War II, and definitely in Korea. That was its primary purpose, was to support Marines on the ground, infantry on the ground. But I like the Corsair clean. I like the hard points on it, but I like them empty, if that tracks. And with the gear down, landing gear down, canopy open, with the pilot in it, and probably with the tail hook down, it looks nice hanging in flight as if on final approach to a carrier. I like that look for most of the Navy aircraft that I build. But I also like the idea of being able to change that up, pose it as absolutely in flight, or pose it as, you know, approaching the deck, or pose it as parked without a pilot. So this one does include a pilot figure. Once again, it's the same figure that we see with the P-47, exactly the same figure. Here's that aviator here. You can see it's exactly the same. So I've done some modification to this to make it fit, to make him fit into the cockpit there, to fit behind the seat, and put a riser under so that he would sit at the correct height as the cockpit turned out, as the seat height turned out in that aircraft. Should be to scale. He looks proper. He would be sitting on a parachute pack in that airplane. So that's kind of how we ended up with this thickness here. This, you know, he had to cut away, you know, part of the poor feller just so that he would sit far enough back in the cockpit, and that's why that's cut away there. Something you wouldn't see once he's installed into the cockpit of the aircraft. May have to do certain modifications to this once we're done with our cockpit for this aircraft. You never know how things eventually turn out. So anyway, I'm pretty happy with the components of the kit. Everything looks really good, typical of Guillow. These molded plastic parts, you know, they're not bad. You know, again, I might review these parts here and just, you know, cut out the wing root coolers myself, just fabricate my own. I'm not sure. But as I said before, I like to use the kit components as much as I can. All right, so here's a sheet of parts that they now include, this fiberboard stuff, instead of the plywood they used to make these out of. And you know, most of this stuff has to do here with the fly line, with the U control, whatever they call that, when you fly these airplanes in a circle with a Cox engine on it. I never got into that. I always thought I'd just get, you know, sick or dizzy spinning around with these things. So I never got into that. Not to knock it or anything. I know a lot of U control type flyers, you know, that I guess do that. I see their videos posted time to time too, but I just never got it. So here's a firewall for the 049 engine. Already has the points marked in. Now the one thing I probably will use here is the spar for the center wing section, and that's just to make sure that we're getting the shape right on the center wing side. We get these two bends right in the shaping of that wing. I may use them. I may just use this as an alignment tool just to make sure I have it right. Anyway, there's not a lot that I'll need from that sheet. The kit also includes these 4 balsa blocks, just as the P-47 does, exactly the same. Includes these same 4 pieces of wood. Not 100% sure why yet. I haven't gotten to that phase of the P-47 build to find out what those are for, and I probably won't use them anyway. Because of the difference in the way that I build these for static display and infilled and all that stuff. So you see there's quite a bit of strip stock, some leading edge stock, and the parts themselves. This is not a laser cut kit. This is a die cut, or die crushed we call it, and where all the parts are stamped out but left in place and have to be fully removed. The best way to get these pieces out is not to just try and slice them out, but first to back sand, to sand the back sides of each sheet. You just would pull this out and take a sanding block with some, you know, 60 grit on it probably, and just back sand this. And what that does is that gets you through the areas where it hasn't cut all the way through. The die crusher doesn't necessarily cut these parts all the way through. So the best way to get them just to fall off of the sheet is to back sand the sheet. And then you just have to do minimal cutting with the X-Acto, tracing with the blade. And it saves the parts. I can't tell you what the time saver is, and how it can improve the quality or reduce the risk of altering the shapes of these parts as you're trying to slice them out of here if you don't back sand these. So back sanding the die crush sheets is a critical step. You know, if you're going to be building these kits, you want to start doing that if you're not already. These are the main wheels. I think the prop spinner hub here for the rubber band power. You got a nice big spool of rigging wire here, which I like. I mean, that's an awful lot of wire for an airplane that just has an antenna wire on it. But I can use that on endless kits. This is really good nylon blend line that just does not sag or fail over time. It holds up really well, is I guess what I'm trying to say. There's a lump of clay in there that's helpful for different aspects of modeling, and then cloth for hinging the tail surfaces for the U control type flying, the control line flying. And as I said, the main wheels, and it looks like a wooden tail wheel. Right, so that's good. Good stuff. We'll use all of those. And there's like a ton, for some reason there's just a ton of piano wire included with this kit. And I think, well, I did look into it, and then a lot of it has to do with the droppable bomb configuration of how that's wired, and then the landing gear, because it's retractable, will require quite a bit of piano wire. You know, so there's a good reason there's a lot of it, but there is a lot of it. These parts are designed to help for the rotation of the landing gear struts. That's the word I was looking for. I kept saying posts or whatever I was in, but the landing gear struts will use these parts, and you know what you're going to end up doing here is inserting the piano wire, the heavy-duty piano wire, up into these in here, and then attaching the I'll be attaching the aluminum tubing, the struts themselves here. But this is designed to then pivot inside of a pivot block inside of each wheel well to allow the landing gear to rotate up, and then also to rotate to the side. A lot of you who may not be familiar with the Corsair, the landing gear, when it comes down, it swings down and rotates so that the wheels are, you know, in a direction that will allow it to roll down the runway. And then as the gear retracts, it rotates back, and the wheels twist inward so that they can lay flat inside of the wheel wells. So it's kind of a double motion. It's a twisting and a rotation from extension.